Wanting a bear that'll cuddle and kill ya? Call on Professor Frink. Wanna make your ears smell like greasy steamed hams? Well, call on Professor Frink. And don't forget a state-of-the-art security system to put all of your family's safety first.
The real humans won't burn quite so fast in there. Hi.
You can depend on Professor Frink for his enthusiasm, brilliance, and sexy voice too.
Dancing and twisting and the kung fu fighting. Diddle-diddle-dee-doo. So
come on over to his stand at the Springfield Knowledgeum Expo this Sunday. Sunday. Ahoy hoy Springfieldians, it's Lydia here diving into the complete timeline of Professor Frink.
I'm hoping to turn it into a weapon. I will kill you.
I've gotta go now.
His childhood and his father. Professor Jonathan John IQ Needlebaum Frink, better known as Professor Frink, is Springfield's local scientist and college professor. He's extremely brilliant, but somewhat socially inept.
Hello there, Ivy.
But what I love about Professor Frink is his genuine, unabashed passion for science. Something that he was just born to do, quite literally, as he owns the title of the world's second test tube baby. Which is why I'm not too shocked that he inherited this obsession from his folks. But the conscientious duo were more interested in their work than their own son. So the only way for little Frink to get any attention was for him to change the pitch of his voice, which explains his nonsensical utterances.
With the up and down and the extra words and the terminal nonsense and the hiving, cliving, wagging.
It may also explain why his entire identity may surround his love of science, aiming to be the very thing his parents loved most. Hank Azaria was actually inspired by Jerry Lewis's performance in The Nutty Professor when building Frink's voice. And we actually get to meet the original Frink, i.e. Jerry Lewis, in Treehouse of Horror 14 in the form of Frink's father, Frink Sr. And although these two look very similar, they couldn't be more different.
Mother used to say we got along like positrons and anti-neutrinos. Oh yes, I'm a geek.
To put it simply, they just didn't get on, with his dad seeing him as a huge disappointment.
You've disgraced the name of John Needlebaum Frink.
Frink Sr. died when bitten by a shark while testing a blood-based suntan lotion. And so, when Frink Jr. won the Nobel Prize, he decides to bring back his long-dead daddy back to life. But despite being back from death and completing the impossible, his father still wasn't happy, commencing an organ theft rampage, replacing his body parts with stolen ones, all in the hope of building the perfect body. To put a stop to his father's murderous rampage, Frink is forced to give him a deadly kick to the groin.
Ow, ooh, ow, oi, ooh, ow, dead.
But he's not completely gone, as Frink stores his father's soul in a box.
That's a good schmendler.
Oh, I've waited so long to hear you say that. What does it mean? Is it dirty?
You may be wondering why I'm including these non-canon Treehouse of Horror episodes, but time and time again they have been used to extend or embellish certain characters' lives and personalities which are pretty consistent of what we know of them. And so we can assume that even though his dad may not have been resurrected into Frankenstein's monster, their poor relationship still stands. And also, Frink Sr. has crossed over into the main continuity in flashbacks and pictures a good number of times. Science was ingrained into Frink's DNA, and it was only getting stronger with each invention. And so it pushed him into wanting to pursue it as a career in adulthood. Also, just on the subject, I've got a question for you. Who do you think is the smartest scientist? Professor Frink, Professor Farnsworth, or Rick Sanchez? I just thought it would be nice to settle this dispute once and for all. Professor Frink's wife and son. The two of them built a fighting robot for a battle competition and went head to head against Bart Simpsons, which was just Homer in an old tin can. But right before Frink's robot could kill Homer, Homer makes himself known and it stops killing him, programmed to not harm humans. By the way, I just think it's so cute how Frink Jr. copies all of his father's mannerisms, and unlike Frink Jr. with his parents, he seems to be doing it out of admiration rather than desperation. And when they're not building robots together, Frink is using his son to demo his inventions. During the Baby Expo, he shows off his radio control plane and accidentally flew his son through a window.
Oh dear, my wife is going to kill me.
Speaking of his wife, who could she be? Well, if I had to take a guess, it would be this little lady from the episode Grandpa vs. Sexual Inadequacy. When Frink lugged down that questionable Simpsons liquor, the two of them walked off looking very happy with each other. But for some reason, we haven't seen her or their son since, and quite honestly, I have no idea what happened to them. Either they wandered into a teleportation device and got lost in the third dimension, or they were left alone in Frink's security system, and... Professor Frink in the present day. As mentioned, Frink teaches at Springfield University and has been for a number of years, even being a POOS teacher when he first came to study in America. With an IQ of 199, Frink is undoubtedly the smartest geezer in Springfield, which, to be honest, isn't saying so much.
Whoa, that was close.
During his time on the show, he's invented a lot of contraptions, from hamburger earmuffs to the sarcastic detector.
Well, that's a really useful invention.
But perhaps his biggest invention was the time machine he wanted to use to warn his younger self not to pursue a career in science, which didn't work out too well.
Listen to me, little Frink. I am here to warn you. Ooh.
But spending a lifetime in a lab isolated the poor professor, so with his family either estranged or banished to the third dimension, he had no one in his life. He's so lonely, in fact, that he even built himself a hugging robot. And that grew to hate him too.
My first independent thought is, I dislike you.
So in an attempt to flip his life around, he pulled a Mel Gibson. Nah, he didn't act like an ass, he decided to start analysing what women want. And the result? Well, he pretty much had to change everything about himself. He made his eyes blue and wore platform shoes to increase his height and his chances of getting laid. But even that wasn't enough, with his robot turning him down.
Oh, curse the luck. This is an android that I programmed to say nothing but yes.
And so Homer breaks it to him that is not just his looks, but his voice too.
Oh my God, it's the voice.
Duh.
So Frink invents a chip to turn his voice smooth like butter, and it seems to be the missing part of the formula.
You turned me on.
Oh, it's time for a little field test, I see.
Now a ladies' man, he goes on several dates with women in town. But despite being sought after, he learns that his biggest love is science and his android.
Why did I build a mother? God.
Overall explaining that he doesn't mind so much living alone. It's not just love he's making either, he's also making some sweet, sweet moolah. Well, cryptocurrency to be exact. Frink's currency is called Frincoin, and he hopes that this would be the invention that would make him rich and famous. And luckily, Frincoin is a huge success, and our little brainiac becomes a billionaire overnight, even richer than Mr. Burns.
Oh, I know about cryptocurrency. I have it in my crypt.
But despite his enormous wealth and success, he still feels like something is missing.
I'm so sad.
And that's some friendship, so he makes chums with Homer and his bar buddies, spoiling them with his riches. But he soon learns that they only want to hang out with him because he lavished them with gifts. Realizing that his wealth only made him lonelier, he solved an equation that rendered cryptocurrency worthless, and so lost billions in the process too. But all is not lost. He did gain something far more valuable than invisible, intangible currency. And that's a friend in Lisa Simpson.
You are my best friend.
Aw, really?
His and Lisa's relationship is shown consistently throughout the show, mainly linked through their intelligence. But in the last tap dance in Springfield, their relationship was mainly brought together because Frink wanted her to feel confident by helping her dance superbly despite her haters. And so he built her mechanical self-dancing shoes. And what makes it even sweeter is that by the end of the episode, when her cover's blown, he tries to make her feel even better by saying the shoes weren't even turned on in the first place, only for Homer to go and blow it.
I was merely trying to spare the girl's feelings, you insensitive clod.
Oh!
Professor Frink in the future. In season 16's future drama, Frink introduces Bart and Lisa to his time viewing machine, showing them their future in 8 years' time.
Would you like to see yourselves as teenagers?
No.
Let's go there now.
And even though their futures seem pretty active, Frink's wasn't so much. When Bart returns to Frink's house at 18 years old, we observe a bespectacled skeleton dressed in a lab coat hanging on a rope from the rafter. But my hypothesis is that this skeleton may belong to one of his clones, as cloning was a process he was gradually getting to grips with in the future episodes. So in another episode set in the future, i.e. Lisa's wedding, Frink is shown to be alive and well, leading a team trying to discover the cure for 17 stab wounds in Mr. Burns' back.
Well, we're up to 15.
In Days of Future Future, Frink is shown again, now reaffirming my suspicion that the skeleton prior was just a clone. This is because not only is he present, but he also spends 30 years cloning Homer Simpson back to life.
Homer is not dead. I have made a copy.
But this partnership ends when Homer uses up all of his clones and is only able to be stored inside a flash drive.
Yo, where's my body?
Oh, you used up all your clones, you fat, reckless fat pig.
Now I don't know what this says about his and Homer's relationship and why he decided to spend 30 years of his life curing a guy who just wants to eat himself to death. But maybe, just maybe, he felt sorry for Lisa for having to go through losing her father for 30 years due to his own gluttony. And so that ends the Professor Frink timeline just for now. Finally, I'd like to say a big thank you to my newest Flying Hellfish member, Emily Robinson. And of course, a giant thank you to my other lovely Flying Hellfish members. We have Timothy, One Drama Boy, Steve, Sean, Stefan, Robert, Glenford, Devin, Gadrak, Stephen, Edward, Anthony, Nicola, Jeffrey, Abby, Dominic, Cody, Chaz, Jeff, Gil, Shadu, Murray, Paul, Henry, Frank, Lucas, Zed, Omer, Eric, Thomas88, Samantha, Rayleigh, Laurent, Brendan, Shavendra, Holly, Jason, Molly, Doug, David, Rachel, Valerie, Reese, Sarah, and Thomas.